Hey guys, I hope you're all doing really well. I am like so tired because this is another early morning reading wrap up. It's like 8 o'clock. Gotta do it when you can. So today I'm going to talk about the books that I read in November. So the first book I read in November was Killing Commendator by Haruki Murakami. This is his new release. It took me 2 weeks to read this book, and I didn't read any other books while I was reading this book. So 2 weeks is quite a long time. It's quite a thick book, but it's also not that it's slow to read, but with his books sometimes you need a little bit more time to like digest it. So this is like, first off, this book is so beautiful. Okay, so this is like what the cover looks like, and these are like holes in the actual dust jacket. The inside looks like this, but then under the dust jacket it looks like this, and on the back side too. And then the holes are kind of like, it's so cool. I really love it, and I had to like read this straight away. That's why I have the hard cover. So this is like a classic Haruki Murakami book. It reminds me a lot of Kafka on the Shore because it has this magical realism elements in it, but it's also very contemporary. And so like his other books, it's about this character who kind of is depressed, and then he goes on a journey to find himself, and then this is what happens after the journey. His wife wants to divorce him, and they've been married for like a long time, and he is an artist, so after that he gets secluded in this little cottage up in the mountains, and he starts painting. So originally he's a portrait painter, but when he comes in the mountain, he decides to not paint portraits in the way that he usually does, but in a more artistic way. And so he meets this man who lives on the other side of the mountain that he can see from his window, and he comes to him and asks him to paint his portrait. And loads of things start to happen, weird things. He hears this sound in the middle of the night, a bell that starts ringing at exactly the same time. He finds where the sound comes from, and loads of things unravel, and then this neighbor, and you get to dig things up in the past. And it's just like, it's such a classic. I love his writing. I gave this 5 stars. It's just up there by Kafka on the Shore. It's so amazing. I absolutely love it. I'm so excited about this book. Like his other works, so good. I highly recommend it. It has so many elements that are just like, and the magical realism elements of this book is just done so well. He does it really, really good. Yeah, highly recommend it. Next, I read The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. This was kind of like my Halloween read, but just a little bit late. I thought this was gonna be kind of like Coraline, you know, where there was like a scary element, but it was still like a middle grade for children. And I have to say, like, this is not for children. I don't think if I read this when I was in middle grade, I probably wouldn't have understood the writing, because it's very well written, but it isn't like easily read. And so on the front it says like, the best book that Neil Gaiman has ever written, said Diane Wayne Jones, and I absolutely do not agree. This is probably my least favorite Neil Gaiman book, just because at times, like, I just didn't care for the character, like, I didn't care for, like, the plot. I was just so uninterested. I don't know, I think it's very artistically done, and I think it's very well-written book if you think about literary aspects, but I just didn't enjoy it, if that makes any sense. It definitely picked up towards the end, but I wouldn't recommend this book. Next, I read Crime and Poetry by Amanda Flower, and she writes these really cute crime and... oh, there's a bookmark in here. Cool. This is one of my favorite ones too. Yeah, and the cover is just so cute. So there's this cat, and then there's this bookstore. You can see there's this staircase that is winding around this tree, and and then there's like other books in the background. So when I saw this cover, I'm like, yes, this is the book for me. And it was a very cute, like, kind of crime-ish book. It's about this girl who comes back in her hometown to visit her grandma, and her grandma owns a bookstore. And in this bookstore, like, the books are kind of magical. And so when a murder happens, her grandma tells her to follow the clues that the books give her to solve the crime. And then you get to follow like the main character as she tries to solve the crime. That's all that happens. I enjoyed this. It's very cute and it's very easy to read, like extremely easy. But I wish there was more of like the magical aspect, like the books was trying to help her more, because I felt like she was following all these clues from Emily Dickin's poem, and I felt like there could have been more clues that she was following, and the clues would have been a little bit more obvious to the reader, because I didn't really see it. It wasn't really like that cluey. I don't know how to say it. So I enjoyed this. I give it like 3 stars, but it definitely wasn't like the best book. Also, I'm not a fan of like crime, so I mean, I don't know if I'm like the best judge either. Next, I read Abaddon's Gate by James S.A. Corey. This is the 3rd book in the Expanse series. So this is a sci-fi, a space opera, and this series is just so amazing. I love the 1st book. The 2nd book was not as good, but it was still really good. 3rd book, just as good as the 1st one. So the whole series is about like this crew that is working together, and they're all from different parts of the solar system. Some are from the belt, some are from Mars, some are from Earth, and they have all come together to work on the ship together, and then loads of things kind of happen. This one is like the human race is on the line, you know, and they like this main character has to save the whole thing. So this one is a little bit more crazy, like a little bit more out there, so you just kind of have to like be there for the ride and not try to judge it too much. But I absolutely loved it. This one all takes place in like one event, so it's much more constricted in like the environments and stuff, and I think that's what improved improved from the 2nd book to the 3rd book, because the 2nd one I thought was too many characters, but I think it also had to do with that it was taking place on too many locations, because this one had just as many characters, but it was on one place, so it was much easier to follow, and so good. Oh my god, at the edge of my seat, like trying to read as quick as possible. A really good book, series and everything. Next, I read The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is like a very loved fantasy book, and I've been waiting to read this for a really long time. I think it's the 1st book in the Gentleman Bastard sequence. So this is about this main character called Locke Lamora, who doesn't have any parents or family, and he's taken in by this man who basically trains thieves. And when this man, when he makes so many miraculous mistakes with this man sells him to kind of a priest who also steals money and things from other people, and so he gets acquainted with this gang of people that basically are really good at stealing. And Locke Lamora, wow, he is such a great character, because he has so much depth in the way that he can steal, and he has these really clever plans, and you're like, wow, how the hell did he come up with this? Like, how many like months did it take to plan all this? Like, it's so clever. But then at the same time, he has such a good heart, and he's really true to his beliefs at the end of it. So he's like a very complex character, and I really enjoyed that. And I also liked how unpredictable this book is. You can't really predict what's gonna happen, or it's not like in some books like, oh, this person can't die. No, like that person will die. Like, there's no like security with the book. Despite that, I gave it 5 stars because I think the book deserves it, and I absolutely loved it and enjoyed it so much. Despite that, I think that sometimes my mind was like drifting when I was reading it, and I couldn't really keep focus, and sometimes I had to read passages again and again. And I really think that this book would have benefited from a map, because it talks a lot about different places, and I really feel like a map would have helped so much, because it kept mentioning all these names, and I couldn't remember the name, and then they didn't mention what it meant again, and they just referred to that thing as a name, and it was like with places and rivers and bars, and it was like with everything. So definitely I should have been less names, or like a map that I could look at to refer for the names. But it was such a good book. The language is so good. It's like old written, kind of, and I really love that. Highly recommend this fantasy. I'm gonna buy the 2nd book ASAP. I've read some really great books this month, like it's crazy. So after that, I read Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, and oh my god, whoa, like so good. So yeah, I forgot to say, The Lies of Locke Lamora is an adult fantasy. This one is a young adult fantasy, but it is so addicting. Oh my god. Like, from the first chapter is basically this main character who is the author is drawing parallels between her first time killing someone and her first time having sex with someone, and how the passages are basically the same, but a few key elements are changed because they are different acts, of course, but it's just written so well. Holy shit. So from the first page, like, I was addicted, and I couldn't wait to read the book. Like, I kept wondering, like, when am I gonna read it? When am I gonna read it? So I highly recommend this book. Basically, it's about this character, this main character who her family got killed very early by people in charge, basically, and she is taken in by this man who trains her to become an assassin in a way. At the start of the book, we follow her as she tries to travel to this school that is gonna teach her to become a blade, and a blade is basically like this assassin of the night kind of thing. So in this world, there's like 3 suns, and there's a never night basically, and everyone kind of preaches to the light and the suns, and she kind of, in the assassin in the school, they kind of like preach to the night. So yeah, I thought that was really good. I thought ideology in the book was really good, and I thought the world was really well constructed. The magic is pretty cool in this one as well. Basically, this book takes place in the whole entire time she's at the school, and is just so damn good. Oh my god. And she's like trained in like alluring people, thievery, poisons, and assassinating. I think that's killing, basically, combat. And the only problem I had with this book is like the sex scenes. Like, I don't have a problem with that in the book, but it was just for like the heat of it, you know, which is like not a bad thing, but in comparison to like Haruki Murakami's book, he also has a lot of sex scenes in his, but they're very important to the story, and they're very important to the character development and how the story progresses. They are kind of like an important event that happened, and it really helps you understand the main character. And this, it's just for like the enjoyment of it. So it's completely different, but it's not like it's bad, it's just like a little bit cringy, you know what I mean? It's like when you're reading like Sarah J Maas's book and you're like, pfft. Also, I don't understand why everyone's talking about like Sarah J Maas. Like, this is so much better, honestly, like, no shade. So those are not all the books I read this month. I also listened to an audiobook, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So this is a contemporary, and everyone's been talking so much about this book. Like, it's crazy. It's so hyped. And the question everyone's asking is it overhyped? And in my opinion, yes, it is overhyped, but it is a good book. It's basically about this interviewer who gets the opportunity to interview a very big star called Evelyn Hugo, and Evelyn Hugo is famous for having 7 husbands, and everyone is asking the question, which was her one true love? And so the interview starts with kind of her asking this question to Evelyn Hugo, and then she tells her life story, and she wants to tell her whole story, and for the interviewer to write a book instead of just an article. And that's basically what the book is about, and you get to follow the 2 characters, the one who is interviewing and also Evelyn Hugo as she tells her life. And I mean, the title is really, really ironic when you read the book, because it's not about her 7 husbands at all, it's about her one true love, and it's really interesting and an important book, but it's not a 5-star book. To be honest, I think I gave it 4 stars, but it is worth reading, but it's definitely overhyped as well. So thank you guys all for watching. My voice is like morning-ish. I hope you enjoyed and got some good book recommendations. I read 4 5-star book this month. Like, that is insane. Like, I don't think that's ever happened to me. I read so many good books, oh my god. So I hope you got some good book recommendations, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a lovely day and reading month and all that. Bye!